So this is the first time I'm doing a live video while driving. I'm not going to be looking at you much, but I saw someone doing it today, so I thought, well, I can do that since I live in my car pretty much. So we're in the middle of a very, very hot and active real estate market. And whether you're selling a home or buying a home, it's critical to be prepared, okay? When you're selling a home in a hot market, you'll probably sell whether or not you market your home very well. But things you'll want to keep in mind is you want to have it, you want to know your home. So if you don't really know your home, if you're selling an investment property or you've lived in your home a long time and you haven't, I forgot to tag my husband, dang it. Anyway, then you'll want to have a home inspection, okay? And some people are like, oh, I don't want a home inspection. I don't want to have to disclose anything. Well, it's going to come up when your home's inspected and someone puts an offer in. Why do you want to wait for surprises? If you have your home inspected before you put it on the market, then you avoid surprises that stress everybody out. And a lot of people get freaked out when there's surprises, okay? And so home inspection, termite inspection, maybe you have an electrician out or a roofer or a plumber. You have the plumbing inspected, right? Because then you can know what you're going to negotiate with strength. And what I mean by that is because you don't have surprises, you can tell them, hey, I have some caulking over here, or the windows are old, or, you know, I don't know, just like previous lifting old carpet in the whatever, or lifting old flooring that's like scratched. But I'm not touching it. That's as is. I'm going to leave it alone. I have an old faucet that drips. I'm leaving that. Some people are like, I don't want to deal with it. I'm going to tell them I don't want to deal with anything. So if you know all that and you disclose it and you tell them these things are as is, but these things you're going to have to take care of, right? I'm going to take care of these things. Don't worry. These things you can deal with. Or if you want me to deal with them, then you can pay that on top of the price, right? So, let's say the house has a really old roof and it needs some paint, right? I'll tell clients to list that house for the amount it would be to account for a new roof and paint, right? Because we're fishing for people that can afford that extra 10, 15, 20 grand, right? But if for some reason the people come along and go, you know what, I'm a roofer, or I got a roofer that's cheaper, or whatever, I can handle the roof for 5 years, or this, that, or I can do the paint, or, you know, then we can knock that off the price after. But I don't want to be stuck listing it at a lower price. I've had people say, well, I want to list it at, you know, 200 and they can take the $25,000 reroute and deal with it themselves. And I'm like, yeah, but if you list it for 200, then you're going to get buyers looking for houses that can only afford 200,000. Okay. So with that being said, you avoid surprises. Okay. So we list it to account for the repairs and everything because we want to be able to finance people that can afford that amount. We don't want to catch people that can afford 20 grand less and then be stuck in a situation where we have to bump up the price. Okay. So as a seller, make it pretty, clean it up if you can. If not, just make sure you price it right, you know, and get a good write-up and make sure you're letting people know like what that house really is, and don't try to get more out of it than you really should and hurt yourself by overpricing. Okay. I see some houses, especially on Padre Island, and I'm like, well, this has got to have a pool or be updated, right? Because it's so ridiculously overpriced. Well, high priced. I won't say overpriced. If it had some updates and a pool, then it would be okay. But I'll look at it and it's like dated. It doesn't have a pool. And I'm like, seriously? Like, what are you thinking? Why are you wasting time? Why are you wasting precious time on the market overpricing your home when you don't even have anything to value for that, right? Okay, so that's listing. You have to know your market. You have to know the style. If it's kind of outdated and you're going to update it a little bit and stage it a little bit, you better have a realtor, or you better have an eye, that knows what the current trends are. Because I've had people in the past who are like, well, they told me to paint it, and they painted it like a forest green and like an orange coral. And I'm like, no, that's not what people want. You know, you have to know your market. And so having a realtor that knows the market, or if you want to pay, you know, a designer to help you do that, if you don't have a realtor that has that gift like I do, because I can do that for you. I help you with that. But, you know, so anyway, keep that in mind. When you're buying a home, you better be pre-approved, not pre-qualified. Pre-approved, the difference between being pre-approved and pre-qualified is this. When you're pre-qualified, you can call a lender and say, okay, I make this much money, this is my debt, this is my credit score, and they're basing it off of what you've told them, and they might have verified like your credit or something, but they haven't gotten your tax returns, they haven't checked your bank statements, they haven't verified the information per se that you've talked about, right? So when you're pre-qualified, there can be like, oh, I didn't realize you had this much child support, I didn't realize you had, you know, you've only been at your job for a year, or you've only been making this much money for a year, or you know, there could be surprises, right? When they go through all the paperwork and they do your credit check and they check everything, there might be something that you didn't tell them and changes the game, okay? And so it's important to get pre-approved. When you're in a hot market, or any market, frankly, I don't work with people unless they're pre-approved. Call me snobby, but I kind of am, because I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I can't negotiate with strength or represent you well unless I know what I have. If I say, here's a credit card, go buy something, and you go, well, how much do I have? I go, I don't know. What are you going to do? You don't know what you can buy, right? You don't know. You think you can buy this, but maybe you can't. And even if you have great credit and make a ton of money, if you have a bunch of cars or credit cards or stuff, and you know you can afford the house easily because of the way your money is, the way you look to a lender is different than the way you look to yourself, right? You know, oh, I can afford that, or I got da-da-da. Doesn't matter. The lender is going to say, well, your debt to income ratio is too high, and they'll deny you. Okay, so you want to be pre-approved, ideally with somebody that you know has a good reputation, that is easy to work with, that has a good underwriting crew, because there have been many lenders that I really liked, but when I got past them and I got to the underwriting department, I just wanted to pull my hair out. And then when I out and stress my clients out, the buyer out, but then the seller's stressed out and mad. When are you closing? When are you getting this? Is everything okay? Da da da. And like, I don't know. And in a competitive market, you don't want that unknown. So by God's grace, I have some really great relationships with various lenders, many lenders, you know, a good 5 lenders or more, give or take. And I know that when we get past the lender part and it goes into processing and it goes into underwriting, I know that they know what they're doing and they know what to look for. That's another thing. When you have a good lender who's experienced and knows what they're doing, and they know what their team is doing, and they know how to work cohesively together, like they'll see some things up front, you know, and they'll say, you know what, we need to have you write a explanation letter for this. Let's have that ready. Let's have this ready. Let's make sure we do this, and let's make sure we do that. They know how to package it up front so that it's, there's not like a big, you know, we don't hit a wall towards the end. And that has happened before. I had a person buying a listing that I had in Portland, Texas, and he was pre-approved, and then next thing I know, they denied him. I'm like, what happened? Why is this guy, why are you denying him? It's like, you said we were clear to close. And all that to be said, he had taken the COVID relief thing and had a deferment for 3 months for a property he had somewhere else. And so apparently the lender said, well, since you didn't pay on it, even though he was going to pay it later, pay it later, because you're required to pay it back. But anyway, they're like, well, we want you to see you make 3 months worth of payments. So you need to wait 3 months before we'll close. And he said, well, what if I just pay it all right now? I have the money. I just didn't know what would happen with COVID. So I thought, well, I'll hold on to my money just in case. I'll just pay it now. And they said, no, we want to see you pay for 3 months in a row. And so I called a lender I knew, and I said, well, what in the world? And the lender I knew said, that's silly. He pays it off, he removes the deferment, and we move ahead. And so I asked the agent if I could talk to the buyer, and the agent's like, sure. So I said, hey, buyer, why don't you call this lender and we should be able to get this moving along. So we closed in like 21 days or less because that lender knew what to do. And it wasn't like a midnight hour, oh my gosh, we're shutting you down, we're denied, right? Because you have somebody that knows what they're doing. Same thing with an experienced realtor. If you don't need an experienced realtor and you know what you're doing, yeah, no need to pay one. No need to, be too picky, right? But when it comes to, or if you're new to an area, you really want to make sure you get a realtor that's going to inform you and show you all the options. When I moved here, the realtors I talked to kept trying to put me over on the south side. Nothing wrong with the south side, but I ended up not really preferring the south side. I prefer what's called the Bay Area, the older homes and closer to the bayfront. It's not for everybody, but had I rushed along and tried to go along with the realtors, that was the area I knew, right? But I lived here for, I lived here about 2 years before we realized we were going to stay. And in the meantime, I was doing my homework, figuring out different stuff. And I wanted this big, new, beautiful house. And I realized I didn't like the location. So I make sure I take people to every potential location with the criteria that they have in mind, even if it wasn't quite what they said they wanted, because I want to make sure that I think outside the box, because I didn't even think about this other area when I was here. Okay, so if you're moving from out of town, or if you're new to town, or if you're a first-time home buyer, make sure you have somebody who's not trying to make a quick sale, who's just like, oh, that's great, you like it, let's make a deal. Oh, you like that house? Sure, let's make an offer. Well, have you evaluated your options? I've had to talk people out of homes sometimes because they were trying to force it and it wasn't really what they said they wanted. I'm not redlining or doing anything that would compromise my integrity or my industry, but I'm saying, you told me this and now you're trying to settle for this. Why don't you stay and focus on what you told me you wanted, and let's be patient to make sure we get that. And thank goodness I did that, because I've had some homes that I've sold in the last year or so that my people bought within the last couple years. And when we were looking for homes, I was like, no, you can do better than that. You can do, I think that's not really what you want. We should make sure we're in a better location because, And thank God, because they sold 2 years later and they didn't have to bring any money to close. Their homes had both appreciated 20 grand. No, one appreciated 20 grand and one appreciated like 30 grand or something. Okay. In a year and a half, 2 years. So, anyway, that's my heart. I love my clients. I said the number one thing, the main thing my husband and I focus on is protecting you, and make sure your realtor really wants to protect you. And when they protect you, what they do is they inform you, they teach you, they tell you about the market, they tell you about what's going on in the city, they tell you about developments, they tell you about the plans, and tell you if there's parks nearby or walking paths or what schools are there or what your lifestyle is going to be. I always say the most important thing I want people to remember is when you drive down that street, when you drive home, do you feel comfortable? Do you feel happy and start decompressing as you drive home? Is this where you feel like, I'm happy to be home? Or do you get kind of stressed out because there's too many cars on the street, or there's, like overgrown grass everywhere, or it's too loud, or, pay attention to those things, because it may not be an amazing house, but it's very important that you feel like you're coming home. Okay. And that you feel happy when you come home, and that you're going to want to go for, if you have kids, if you have pets, or if you like to go running, or if you like to go biking, or if you like to go for walks, is this place going to be conducive to your lifestyle that you envision? Do you like to have friends over? If you like to have friends over, you really need to think about your lot and where your lot is located, right? Are you on in an area where the street's wide enough to have people park when they come over? Is there a park nearby maybe where they could park, right, and walk across the street? Maybe you're on a big corner and they can park around the corner. You got to think about that if you love to have people over. I love to have people over. Unfortunately, I do have a park across the street. So when my house is ready to have people over then we will have you over. So anyway, God bless you. Orlando, my husband, many of you know, and if you don't know us, he is a realtor as well. and he and I work the Houston market, but he's the main guy over there, and I'm the main gal in Corpus. So he lives there, you know, during the week and comes here on the weekends usually, unless he's working some people over there on the weekend, and I'm here in Corpus. So we're here for you, and we are happy to answer any questions and serve anybody who comes our way. So God bless you and have a great day.